Good evening and welcome to one of the most joyous occasions I think we have ever come across in Christendom, at least. You know that tonight we're celebrating the presence of the blazing light of love that is at the core of all of reality and has been ever since the Big Bang. But it took the event of 2,000 years ago to really bring it out in such an obvious fashion that we can't deny it. But tonight we celebrate that blazing light of love, and I'm going to light the Christmas candle as an example of that. And I think all of you have your candles because at the end we will have our own light of love celebration. I can think of no better way to get us going tonight than reading the Daily Word, which might be up on the screen.
No,
okay. So we won't, but I'm going to read from it because as I read it today, it just seemed like it was a wonderful introduction, lead in to tonight's service. And so I want to share it with you as setting the tone for tonight. The saying for tonight is, I follow divine light toward rebirth and renewal. A new birth is on the horizon as I follow faithfully the guiding light of spirit. I anticipate the joyful awakening of a renewed sense of oneness and with the indwelling Christ presence. I behold the intention today to imagine myself in the Christmas story. What does a journey to Bethlehem mean to each of us? We look inward. We may sit in silence as we hold this question in our hearts. Whether we will enjoy a quiet day alone or a busy day of preparation activities, probably a mixture of both for all of us, we reverently embrace this prelude to rebirth. We honor ourselves with a gift of reflection. In the Gospel of Luke, the shepherds took no gifts to Bethlehem, other than their just humble presence, their very beings. Likewise, we bring the gift of ourselves, our open and receptive mind, soul, and body. And from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2 and verse 15, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go now to Bethlehem." Let us go.
love, and his gospel is peace. Chains shall he break, on the slaves are brother, and in his name all oppression shall cease. Sweet hymns of joy in grateful chorus praise we, let all within us praise his holy name. Fall on your knees, hear the angel voices, oh night divine, oh night, when Christ was born.
We welcome all of you, both here and those who may be watching online, to our magical, metaphysical Christmas Eve service. Whether you are still searching or have found Christmas in your heart and in your hands, I invite you to become absorbed by the possibilities of the faith, love, and peace that is being born in you right here, right now, as we arrive in Bethlehem. The Roman government has decided to take a head count so they could figure out who they needed to tax more, sort of like the Census Bureau of today. They ordered everyone to return to their birthplace to register. Joseph was from Nazareth, and being the head of the household, the family, and probably many of his relatives left their spiritual community to travel to Bethlehem, sort of like the state capital. Metaphysically, Bethlehem represents an awareness of the divine energy which provides everything needed to create and sustain everything. As the city of David, it is a state of consciousness ruled by faith and love.
Oh, little town of Bethlehem, how still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark state shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all believers are left in thee tonight. For Christ is born of Mary and gathered all apart. While mortals sleep, the angels keep their watch of wondering love. All morning stars together proclaim the holy birth, and praises sing to God the King, and peace to all on earth. Both Mary and Joseph were living faith. Like the rest of their community, they were holding a vision of the unmanifest becoming manifest. Hebrews 11:1 describes describes faith as the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Faith then becomes the bridge from our current perception of reality to the certainty of possibilities. Charles Fillmore, Unity co-founder, describes faith as the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance, spiritual assurance, a deep inner knowing that which is sought is already ours for the taking. Both of these passages highlight the power to do the impossible. Faith overcomes fear, and with faith, we become fearless. Joseph also demonstrated for us the spiritual assurance aspect of faith. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, assurance is the state of being sure or certain about something. And as our Christmas story unfolds, we never see him waver in his certainty that Spirit is in charge. With Mary, Joseph moves confidently forward on their journey towards Bethlehem. They had what Charles Fillmore described as a deep inner knowing that which is sought is already ours for the taking. When we allow our divine capacity for faith to come forth, we too can move confidently forward, knowing that what we desire is already becoming. What are you really waiting for? Can you place your faith in its arrival? Can you appreciate all that you have as you also celebrate what is in the process of becoming? Yes, you can. And now it's time to awaken divine love. Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would teach our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child which you deliver will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would calm a storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kissed your little baby, you kissed the face of God. Oh, Mary, did you know? Oh, Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? One of my favorite Christmas songs, Mary, did you know? I think it touches my heart because I remember the mystery of becoming a mother. I truly had no idea what I was in for. And that was a grace in action, I'm sure. Well, how much did Mary know? Mary, did you know that this sleeping child you're holding is the great I am? How many of you have ever watched a baby sleep and held a baby for the first time? Is there any doubt of their purity, their innocence? They are the embodiment of divine love. It's not a large leap of faith, even now, when I kiss the face of my sleeping grandchild, to believe that I have kissed the face of God. In the story The Trip to Bethlehem, author Hypatia Hasbrook describes the symbolism of the baby Jesus as a fresh, undeveloped idea, potentiality, the future, new life. Remember, the Christmas story is our story, which means we are all that. Each of us started out as a baby, full of love, full of purity and innocence, with our I am presence front and center. Our second principle in unity is we are spiritual beings created in God's image. The Spirit of God lives within each person, and therefore all people are inherently good. That is us. And love is a part of that nature. In another one of my favorite Christmas carols, our opening song, O Holy Night, we heard the words, His law is love. His law is love. His gospel is peace. Jesus came to teach us that there is only one truth, one law, and that law is love. And so we are also Mary. Hypatia tells us that metaphysically, as the mother of Jesus, Mary symbolizes love in its highest sense. The love she symbolizes is the idea of eternal spiritual harmony with everyone and everything, and the soul's eternal oneness with God. This is the potential that lies in all of us, waiting to be born into expression.
Our story continues. Under that same magnificent star-filled night, there is another set of shepherds. Luke chapter 2, verses 8 through 14 tells us, nearby, in the fields outside of Bethlehem, a group of shepherds were guarding their flocks from predators in the darkness of night. Suddenly, a messenger of the Lord stood in front of them, and the darkness was replaced by glorious light, the shining light of God's glory. They were terrified.
There was quiet in the fields, no noise but the sheep, when suddenly the heavens shouted, wake up from your sleep. We bring you such glad tidings, Jesus has been born. He lay within a manger, where his feet uncorn. This man will lead you from sin and poverty to know the Christ within you, and you'll be truly free. We invite you now this Christmas to feel Christ in your heart, and soon you'll come to realize we've never been apart. There was quiet in the fields, no noise but the sheep, when suddenly the heavens shouted, wake up from your sleep. We bring you such glad tidings, Jesus has been born. His love now lives within you, this blessed Christmas morn. On the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, with hope for the newborn child. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the skies. With angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, Prince of Peace, till the Son of Righteousness. Light and life to all He brings, rest with healing in His wings. Man hears His glory by, Lord, that we no more may cry. Lord, to show us all our worth, Lord, to give us peace on earth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King.
So let us talk about shepherds for a minute and why they are so significant to the story. Throughout the history of the Bible, shepherds have been central. Moses was a shepherd. David, who killed the giant and became king, was a shepherd. Many of God's favored ones were shepherds or herdsmen of some kind. However, as the world grew older and more sophisticated, social lines became clearer. Social outcasts. They were wanderers, drifters in a society that didn't have much room for people like that. Shepherds had the reputation, whether fairly or not, as being thieves. They couldn't be trusted. They lived and moved around with sheep. They didn't look good. They didn't smell good. They were considered uneducated and unsophisticated men. They were also religiously unclean. In Jewish tradition, to fully participate in the religion, you had to undergo certain rituals and attend certain festivals and services to be considered clean and acceptable to God. Because of a shepherd's work, schedule, and constant migration, they could not attend those regular services and perform the necessary ritual of purification. Thus, shepherds were religiously unclean. That's who the shepherds were. Outcasts, overlooked, ousted by the religious establishment. Not good enough for God, so they were taught. How many of us come to unity feeling that we're not good enough for God because of something we've experienced or something we've been told? Yet the stage is set for the child who will change the world to be born among the people who think they aren't good enough for God.
Let every heart prepare in room, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. Joy to the world, our Jesus came. Let their songs employ, while fields and flowers, rock fields and plain. Repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations true. The glories of His righteousness, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love, and wonders of His love.
And the first people to hear the good news of his birth were these same people. I can hear the words of Joan Osborne singing in my ears. What if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us. Just a stranger on the bus trying to make his way home. If God had a face, what would he look like? Well, guess what Christmas is here to remind us? That God isn't just one of us, but God is us. That's why the message is for all people.
Angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains go on? Sing what may the tidings be, which inspire your happy song. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see, in whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Son, the newborn King. Gloria, in excelsis Deo. Gloria, in excelsis Deo.
It was a long and difficult journey. By the time of their arrival, the small town was overcrowded. The caravan probably sought refuge on the outskirts of town, possibly with relatives. But for the sake of our childhood memories, let's say there were some friendly shepherds who offered to share their manger with the couple. A manger, by the way, is a shelter for herdsmen and their livestock. It could have been a cave or a stone structure, or what we would consider a barn. Together, they walk hand in hand up the candlelit path to the shelter. They join others by the fire and gaze up at hundreds of stars filling the sky. There is a stillness all around. As they hold hands by the fire, they allow the peace of the night to fill them. Grounded in faith, they know that everything is in divine order, that their love will sustain them, and inner peace fills them. Then Mary feels something stirring inside her in the first uncomfortable pains of labor. The time has come.
little Christ Jesus laid down his sweet head. The stars in the sky looked down where he lay. The little Christ Jesus asleep on the hay. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Christ Jesus no crying he makes. I love thee, Christ Jesus, look down from the sky, and stay by my cradle till morning is nigh.
And the time has now come for us to consider what we will give birth to this Christmas. How will we seek to find more faith, more love, more peace, more joy within ourselves? How will we spread more faith, love, peace, and joy in the new year before us? Let us join now in meditation. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. What pleases God? When we live as the Christ we are, shine like the Bethlehem star. It is through daring to give birth to our own potentiality as the I am that we create spiritual harmony with everyone and everything. It is through love that we experience our eternal oneness with God. And when we are grounded in faith and wrapped in love as the babe in the manger, peace is who we become. The peace that is ours in this moment and in every moment. Let us join together as we continue our worship with our vision. Together, a world powerfully transformed through shared spiritual awakening. Our mission, advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. Our values, abundance, acceptance, community, diversity, integrity, joy, and love. And we celebrate our children with this affirmation: Unity of Appleton sees the divinity in all children and nurtures their unfolding spirituality. And let's recite together our affirmation of prosperity. The unity of Appleton is alive with the energy of spirit, in the flow of divine abundance, and radiant with unlimited possibilities. We celebrate in our giving and receiving. Divine love in and through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I joyfully give and willingly receive. I give in love, and I trust God as my source. As the plates are passed. Now, if you would come up Okay, so now we're going to join together and celebrate the light of the season, the light that exists within each of us. That we celebrate tonight is appearing in Jesus Christ, appearing in all of us. And so we light the candles. Al and I will light our candles from here, and then we will take it to the first person in the aisle, and they will pass it on to the next person. So we all have candles lit.
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright. Round young virgin, mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight, glory stream from heaven afar, heavenly hosts sing hallelujah. Jesus Christ is born. Jesus Christ is born. Silent night, holy night, Son of God, love's pure light, radiant beams from thy holy face, with the dawn of redeeming grace. Jesus Christ at thy birth, Jesus Christ at thy birth.
Now let us join together in the prayer of protection, and then at the conclusion, we can extinguish our candles, but underneath the candles, there is an affirmation for you to take with you. So together, the light
Light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
you.
Yes.